regret it, not for a second. Was it a huge overreaction? Because men are basically bullied relentlessly by feminists and feminism.
Picture this. A man sits in a broadcast studio. Fire him. He calls a woman pathetic and embarrassing on live television. He asks the entire nation, who'd want to shag that? Then he watches the backlash explode, watches the complaints flood in by the thousands, watches his career go up in flames. And when the smoke clears, he leans into the microphone and says those 5 words. I don't regret it. Not for a second. That is not a villain in a movie. That is Lawrence Fox. And the woman he tried to humiliate in front of millions, her name is Ava Santina. Welcome back to the Celeb Tea Files, where we don't just cover the drama, we expose what the headlines are hiding. And trust me, the headlines buried the real story here. So before we tear this entire thing open, hit that subscribe button. Because this is not just another celebrity said something stupid story. This is the story of a man who lost everything and still refuses to blink. Here is what nobody is talking about. The visual anchor for this entire mess is a glass of water. Not because anyone actually threw one, but because one of the hosts on that show, Dan Wootton, literally suggested that the appropriate response to Lawrence Fox's rant would have been to throw a drink in it.
Yeah, you should have got a glass of water, something in your face. I mean, that would have been
Well, I mean, I think
appropriate
should have had his balls chopped off, but that didn't happen either.
His face. You should have got a glass of water on your face, he said. And then he laughed. The moderator laughed, the studio laughed, and the woman at the center of it all, Ava Santina, became the punchline of a joke she never agreed to be in. That is the image you need to hold in your head. A news studio, a woman reduced to a question, and the men around her treat it like pub banter. But here is the thing about pub banter. When you say it on national television, past the watershed with cameras rolling, it is not banter anymore. It is evidence. Let us rewind to exactly what happened. Lawrence Fox, sitting on a GB News panel, decided that the appropriate way to debate feminism was to make it deeply, violently personal. He looked at the discussion about Ava Santina and her views on gender politics, and instead of engaging with a single idea, he went straight for.
We're past the watershed, so I can say this. Show me a single self-respecting man that would like to climb into bed with that woman, ever.
Her body. Show me a single self-respecting man that would like to climb into bed with that woman ever, he said. Then he doubled down. Who wasn't an incel? Who wasn't a cucked little incel? Then he called her pathetic and embarrassing and asked again, who'd want to shag that? And here is the part that makes your stomach turn. The host, Dan Wootton, did not stop him. He smirked. He later admitted, I smirked when I watched it. He called it uncomfortable laughter. But laughter is laughter. And Ava Santina was not laughing. 8,000 complaints. That is how many people were angry enough to file official objections with Ofcom. 8,000. A campaign led by Carol Vorderman, no less. And what did Lawrence Fox say when confronted with that number? He did not apologize. He did not.
To this earlier today, saying that she regretted her comments, but she didn't apologize.
Even pretend to feel bad. He said, and I quote, do I regret it? Not for a second. Stop and sit with that for a moment. Not for a second. You would think a man who just got fired from a major news network might pause and reflect. You would think a man whose career imploded in real time might feel a flicker of shame. But Lawrence Fox is not that man. When asked directly, did you ever apologize to her? He said, yeah, I did. Then immediately added, did she accept it? No. Why would she? As if her refusal to accept his apology was the real problem. As if the issue was not what he said, but that she did not forgive him fast enough. That is the moral refrain of this entire story. Not for a second. Say it with me. Not for a second. He said it once about regret. He meant it about accountability. He meant it about decency. And he will probably mean it again before this video ends. But here is where the story gets even darker. Because Lawrence Fox did not just defend himself, he went on the offensive. He claimed that Ava Santina had launched a whole career.
Attach a link into your dashboard. Incogni's privacy specialists take it from there beyond the automated list. Unlimited links handled by real humans. It's low effort, it works, and it buys genuine peace of mind. They can't target you if they can't find you. So don't
Off his comments. He said she did a big shoot with the Daily Mail where she was paid a lot of money saying this was so terrible. He literally tried to frame himself as the victim. A man who called a woman unshaggable on live television stood there and said essentially she should thank him for the publicity. Millions of fans watching this unfold have already called it what it is: gaslighting, victim blaming, the oldest play in the book when a powerful man gets caught treating a woman like dirt. You are not outraged, you are just jealous of my platform. She is not hurt, she is just using me for clout. But let us check the receipts. The transcript does not lie. When someone asked Fox how he would feel if two broadcasters said the same thing about his 15-year-old stepdaughter, he did not say he would be furious. He did not say it was wrong. He said, and I am quoting directly, "I'd feel fine." Then he pivoted to a rant about how kids these days use bad language because parents refuse to parent them. That was his answer. That was his moral compass. He would feel fine. Not for a second. Here is the ticking clock question that changes everything. Why is it that when a woman talks about the gender wage gap or male suicide or the need for a minister for men, the response from certain corners of the media is not debate but degradation? Why is the default setting to attack her appearance, her sexuality, her worth as a human being? This is not just about Lawrence Fox. This is about a pattern. A pattern where women who speak up are met with questions about who would want to sleep with them. And that pattern is not going away. It is just finding new hosts, new studios, new late-night shows where men still think they cannot win no matter what they say. And trust me, the next part gets so much worse. Because the host...
I think what was much more offensive is the fact, and everyone forgets this, that vile woman, Ava Santina...
Dan Wootton did not just smirk. He later said he did not think what Lawrence said was really offensive. He said the more offensive thing was that Ava Santina didn't want there to be a minister for men and doesn't give a damn about male suicide. In other words, her political opinions were more offensive to him than a man publicly degrading her body on air. Let that sink in. The moderator of the show, the person paid to provide balance, sat there and decided that a woman's stance on policy was worse than a man calling her pathetic and embarrassing in front of millions. That is the injustice that should make you genuinely angry. Because Ava Santina did not ask to be the center of this. She showed up to talk about feminism. She left as a punchline. And then she had to watch the men who did it to her rewrite history and call themselves the victims. You are someone who sees through that, though. You are not the kind of viewer who buys the "it was just pub banter" excuse. You know the difference between a heated debate and a targeted humiliation. And that is exactly why the Celeb T Files exists. Because the mainstream media will call this a controversy. We call it what it is. A man who refused to apologize, a network that let it happen, and a woman who got turned into a cautionary tale for speaking her mind. So what happened next? GB News fired Lawrence Fox. Dan Wootton also lost his job at the network. The show that once thrashed Sky News and the BBC, according to Wootton himself, got taken off air. And the British Broadcasting Corporation faced a firestorm of criticism for ever letting it happen in the first place. But here is the part that still haunts. When Fox was on...
And 9,000 people, was it complained?
8,000.
To the off-communists in a campaign led by Carol Warner.
Say the same thing in a pub as on the news? He said yes. When asked if he has the right to say whatever comes into his head, he said, I have absolutely the right to. When asked if thinking something means you have to say it, he said, yeah. No filter, no growth, no lessons learned. Just a man standing by every single word. And that is the unanswered question that keeps me up at night. If losing your career is not enough to make you reconsider, what would be? If 8,000 complaints...
The right to.
Would you have the same conversation in a pub as you would on the news?
Yeah.
GB News. Can you curse on GB News?
Yes.
Did you?
A public hanging in the media and being labeled the lowest of the low by your own colleagues does not crack the armor? What will? Before we get to that answer, here is the second thing I need you to do. Like this video, share it with someone who still thinks it was just a joke. Subscribe to the Celeb T Files and turn on the notification bell because we are the ones tracking these stories when everyone else has moved on to the next headline. We do not forget. We do not forgive on behalf of people who were never apologized to. And we definitely do not let men who say, who'd want to shag that, pretend they are the ones being silenced. Now back to that question.
what would it take? Lawrence Fox ended the interview by claiming that something was coming on May the 7th. The end of your way of thinking, he said. It's finished. The people are going to be heard. He did not explain what he meant. He just leaned on vague threats and political slogans. Because that is easier than saying 3 small words. I was wrong. But here is the truth that no one on that panel wanted to admit. Ava Santina did not need Lawrence Fox to validate her. She did not need him to want to shag her. She did not need his apology or his regret or his belated realization that he went too far. She needed one thing. For the men in that studio to treat her like a human being. And they could not even do that. So here is my question for you, straight into the comments. Do you believe that someone like Lawrence Fox can ever genuinely come back from something like this without apologizing? Or has the era of the unrepentant celebrity finally reached its breaking point with audiences who are